welcome back to Study with Additti. My name is Additti and this channel is dedicated to revision tips and tricks along with much more to help make your schooling life a whole lot easier. Today I'm with Vanessa and we're going to be discussing how to revise history because I haven't covered that on my channel yet and it's a subject that a lot of you do. Even though I didn't do it myself, Vanessa here did and she's able to give you advice.
I did not take it at A level, so my knowledge is purely based off revising for GCSEs. So I hope it's still kind of useful even if you are doing A levels, but yeah.
If you do A level history, please comment down below any tips and tricks that you have because it's going to be really helpful for anyone else that does A level history. We're going to structure this video in terms of, the first section will be content and notes, second section will be revision, and the third section is going to be practice questions. So yeah, let's get started.
So in terms of content and notes, so there are really good general, revision videos on YouTube and generally on the internet. Crash Course is amazing. I feel like that really saved me, but obviously it won't give you the specific content that you need. For that, you really do just need to pay attention in class and go through your textbooks. Definitely do that. When you read through your textbook, don't just read through. Make sure you do write notes on the specific key details, because that is what is going to get you those top grades. And I think even for geography that was the case.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like case study specific details makes the examiner just think you know it. Like, okay, I'm not gonna tell you to make up details like that. I feel like you can do that more in geography than history.
Definitely.
But if you really cannot remember them, try and think of like a figure that kind of makes sense.
Estimate.
Yeah. So as long as it sounds realistic, it's fine. But that's geography. We're gonna go back to history now.
So it's kind of similar actually for history, because when you are revising, you should definitely not only revise like your separate topics individually, i.e. say if you're doing one section, one area, for example, during 1 month and then a completely different area during another month, that's fine. Just make sure that you do it in a timeline based revision way, because if you remember the dates, that's going to help you so much more in like the big picture kind of clicking in your head. At least that's what I found. And not just that, when you're writing in your exam, it'll be a lot easier to write down like events specific to those times if you did study it in that way.
Yeah, especially like with timelines, you're learning it visually, which is a lot better than just reading notes. I remember doing a lot of timelines in history myself, even from year 7 to 9. So like even at such a basic level, I think they can be really important.
Who you write your notes around is also really important, because if you're doing it on your own, you might not get every detail. So make sure that you do maybe go through your notes either with a teacher or with a friend that's also doing what you're doing, because that will definitely make sure that you cover all of your topics.
Yeah, especially think for the humanities subject, like it's a lot more open. So for geography, again, just because I can relate, we did like a load of things in class, but we never really got the answers to all of those things, meaning that we could have gaps in our notes if we didn't catch up, or if we didn't do the task properly, we could have gaps in our notes. So I think, again, checking your notes with a teacher or your friends is really quite good.
Yeah, also the learning specification is there to help you. Use it as a guide. Do not necessarily stick to exactly what it's telling you, because more often than not it's going to ask you questions beyond what it says in the specification in your exam. So extra knowledge will be beneficial no matter what. Obviously, I know if you're doing GCSEs you're going to be doing a whole load of subjects and it might seem impossible, but doing that little bit of revision every day is definitely going to help you out, especially with writing notes. If you write your notes, it will be easier for you afterwards.
And the thing with going beyond the specification, that's going to be like so much at A level. So that's the only A level tip I can really give. But definitely go beyond the specification for A-level, and as Vanessa said, for GCSE too.
So in terms of the type of notes you can make, obviously I said the timeline method is like really helpful, but you might find that revision cards are easier. Again, make sure you do write them in timeline order, so of what you're revising. Make sure you also, in your revision notes, include that specific detail that I was talking about earlier, because if you think, oh, well, I have it in my broader notes, that's not really going to help you if you're revising your revision notes more in the day-to-day kind of scheme of things.
Yeah.
Don't be scared to ask questions. If something's not clicking in your head, then just be sure to ask someone else, because if you don't see the bigger picture of things, it's going to be really, really hard to focus on that specific detail. I'm 100% sure that's how it was with geography, so you can vouch. But also with A-level, I'm seeing like a lot of people struggling with that now if they didn't do that for GCSE. Getting your habits in there like early as possible. My revision pattern wasn't the best. I'm gonna be the first one to admit that. But I did still get, you know, a 7 or 8. So I think I know what I'm talking about when I say a little every day goes a long way. I definitely stuck to revising history most days, so I would have it maybe 4 days a week, but it will be in 10-ish minute chunks. So I would either go through my notes in those 10 minutes, or I would watch or rewatch a video that I'd already watched, just to make sure that I'm, you know, ingraining those facts into my head.
Obviously you couldn't do everything, so how did you structure that?
Right, so again, with my sort of big picture method, you would obviously have your bigger topics that you would have to study. So within those, you should do it in a time sequential way, i.e. so within those 10 minutes you could maybe cover 5 years worth of knowledge, or one war, for example. Also, when you're studying battles and wars and, you know, reasons for maybe a ruler rising or falling out of power, then you should definitely do it in 5 key steps. So you should do economic, social, political. So not just that, but then go into maybe saying personal things and about the specific person that you're talking about. So if it was a ruler, then maybe mention like if they were, you know, fair, or if they were a tyrant, a dictator, whatever. If they spent all their personal money on artwork rather than on their government, for example, that's a key thing to know, because that will help you. When you revise, the key thing is don't do it quietly. I think for big topics, the best way to maybe learn something is to try and teach it. So definitely be around people who are as interested in the topics as you, or maybe even more so, because they'll ask you questions.
Or people literally in your classes.
Even if they're not in your classes, you can always get a friend to sort of, you know, test you out a little bit.
Yeah, like I've done that with so many subjects. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but like if you have something on a flashcard, it's a lot easier to test someone.
Yeah.
So if you want someone to test you, I'd say make flashcards, because like even if they don't do the subject, it just makes it a lot easier.
Or maybe even get like practice questions on those flashcards as well, so then you can make your points, and then that would be a great thing for when you do actually go into your practice questions, because then you'll know exactly which points you'd want to make.
So kind of like for English literature, I mentioned that in my How to Revise English Lit video. I kind of did like flashcards. Say it was the importance of Romeo or something, Romeo and Juliet. I'd have every single point that I'd want to make about Romeo in that essay, if that makes sense. So I think it's kind of the same thing, because his history is quite essay based as well. So
make sure that you revise certain things at the same time of day each time it's that day for revision of that subject. Did that make sense?
Okay, that's interesting.
So for example, obviously a bit unrelated, but like I would have a really long bus journey in the morning, so I would make sure that maybe on one bus I would do my German revision, and then on my next I would do my history revision. So I could make sure that each day, not only was I guaranteed to revise that subject, but I was also making sure that I had roughly the same amount of time to revise it every time, and that made it a lot easier to get into the stride of revision.
So kind of like timetabling your revision, but like across different bus journeys in your case.
Obviously, doesn't have to be a bus journey.
Like
maybe
your commute or whatever. Personally, I don't like revising or anything on buses or trains, but that's just me. I mean, if you can do it, I think that's quite good because you're really utilising your time that way.
Just definitely make sure you use your time, because obviously on bus journeys, it might not be the easiest thing to bring out all of your books.
Yeah.
But it is...
Like flashcards or something is easy.
Yeah.
Especially if you're using Memrise or Quizlet on your phone. It's good.
Again, anything, like, if you can make revision notes on your phone, do that. It's so much easier, and you'll definitely be more able and have less excuses to actually go and revise. What was it? Okay, so with history videos, for example, they're a lot easier to, you know, go over on a bus journey than, again, bringing out your notebooks.
Yeah.
However, obviously that might not, you might get motion sickness or something, and that just might not be the best idea for you.
You've just got to like plan it in terms of what works for you. We're not like forcing you or anything. We're just here on YouTube trying to give you advice.
Our old English teacher actually said to us that the best time to revise is when you don't feel like you're revising. So don't be like, this is the chore. Make sure you actually just get into the habit of it, because it will be a lot easier.
Another thing, like I just feel like any evening after school, if I have nothing to do, I will feel really weird. I'll feel like, okay, I'm just wasting my life here. I feel like I should do something. So I think if you get into that habit, it's quite good because you end up just doing something. I think it was about 2 months ago now. I literally had nothing to do for like, I don't know, like 3 days straight in the evenings after school. So I literally just put on some music and started making geography flashcards from the glossary in the back of our textbooks. So I think that's a really good thing. Like, even though it doesn't feel like you're doing anything, like you're just writing out, copying stuff. Although I wasn't copying, I was getting the keywords and stuff. It's good because like you'll end up using that resource that you're making, and at the time it feels like, oh, you're just listening to music, having a bit of fun, and again, that's still part of revision.
Any little helps, as the adverts say, so...
But then make sure, like for my flashcards, make sure you actually use them in the end, otherwise it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time otherwise.
To be fair, I think, personally, just writing the notes out really helped me. I mean, not maybe necessarily for history, because I felt the practice questions were key.
Yeah.
But for things like biology, for example, it would be just write and then rewrite and then rewrite, because that would like you could revise it in one term and then forget it 3 days later. It's really hard.
Yeah, because it's really content based.
History, use the mark schemes for different questions as like structure guides. So for when you're doing practice questions, you should probably do your main points and then like evidence underneath those points only. Like, don't go full out writing your paragraphs when you're doing practice questions, because that is a waste of time. Is evidence kind of like dates and stuff? Yeah. Okay. So it wouldn't obviously just be dates, it will be, you know,
names of people, places.
After the fact kind of things, like, yeah. I've found that once you've done all your notes, as soon as you've done them, rather than just going over your notes all the time, do practice questions. That is what's going to get you not only to that, you know, grade 9 structure of answering your questions, but also it's going to solidify your knowledge, and you're going to be able to explain what you know better, which is obviously the key to any exam. They're going to mark you on structure and specific details. The better those are, and obviously the more details you have, the easier it is for that examiner to think, you know what, yes, that deserves a grade 8 or 9.
Because they'll know that you know what you're talking about. And it's like, if you sound smart, you're gonna get the marks, basically.
Literally. Make sure that your vocabulary generally is also pretty good, and obviously doing English is just gonna help a lot with that.
How to revise English literature and language video will be linked
somewhere. Don't use unnecessary filler words like in contrast to.
Oh no, I think those are quite good, but like, just don't write words for the sake of writing words, just to make it a little bit longer. Kind of keep it concise, to the point. I think using phrases like in contrast to, in addition to, is quite good, but I think those should mainly be used for linking paragraphs more than anything.
Yeah, also remember when you're doing your practice questions, you should go for your structure of PEAL, so point, evidence, explanation.
How to revise geography video. I literally talk about it extensively in there, so.
Yeah, go for that.
Even if you're not doing geography, that structure is in there, so go watch that. Would you initially recommend trying those practice questions with your notes?
I wouldn't actually. I wouldn't, because
So no open book tests.
You could do that obviously if you find you're struggling with it, but the thing is, there's so many practice questions on specific topics now that it will be like, you could do one without your notes first. So once you've done your notes, do a practice question to, you know, see how far you understand the topic and if there are gaps in your knowledge. And then if you find that you're struggling with that, go for an open book test. But only after that. You
could do something like, say if you're doing under time conditions, do something like, you're going to do all of it without any notes. And then if you really can't do them without any notes, go back, look at your notes. If you don't get them then like look at the mark scheme. Like do sort of that. So have like a 3-tier system. I think that's probably the best way to go, because that way you're not cheating yourself.
Don't just give in and say, oh no, I can't do this, let me just look at my notes, or let me just look at my revision.
Or don't look at the answer and work your way back, unless you're at that 3rd tier where you literally just don't know.
If you are at that 3rd tier, maybe go over your notes first and then do it again with a closed book.
And make sure you aren't just doing practice questions after you've revised the topic.
The closer you get to your exams, the more you'll want to start doing things from earlier topics.
Exactly.
Especially with history, a lot of the things obviously link to earlier topics that you would have done, because that's what your knowledge is based off of. So definitely going back is a benefit for the topics that you maybe haven't even done yet. With timed conditions, do that again from the start. The earlier you start with that, the easier you're going to get into making your points more concise and getting everything in there.
Your hand's going to be trained to write fast.
Yeah.
So that's all we have to say on revising history. I hope this was helpful for you. If you liked it, smash the like button, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe and hit the bell icon while you're at it.
If you have any more tips, then add them in the comment section below.
Yes. So thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.